Ravi's going to talk about software asset optimization, but he's not going to talk because he hasn't gone into the back to get a mic? No, he has. Okay.
All right. Mic. Usually, I never have a problem to have to use a microphone usually, but today, for the benefit of those sitting in the back, I will use a microphone. I guess I have to go up on the stage. Yes, I am standing. Those of you in question. All right. First of all, I want to thank Simon for opening, giving me a great opening to with this question about where things tracked, and I think I'll try to cover that. Is there a clicker here? So, okay, great. I always like to draw analogies from my life. So, and I know I'm between you and the lunch, so I'll try to be brief and try to do justice to what I'm here for. I like to draw analogies, as I said, from my own life. And my career, when I first started, when I graduated from mechanical engineering, just a few years ago, actually, but yeah, quite a few years ago, my first job was at construction. And I worked for one of the largest construction companies in the world. And what is unique about construction industry is usually this is how a construction site would look like. And the most expensive thing in a construction site are the use of the cranes and the excavators and all those large machinery. They cost money. They cost a certain amount of money per hour to have it in there. And when the chief engineer drives through the site and he sees one of these cranes standing in and not doing anything, he'll stop by and your head gets whacked because you have a resource that's not being used. And so, as part of the practice, a lot of people start hoarding the stuff, saying, hey, you know, when I need a crane, I need the crane. So they start hoarding it, and the chief engineer comes and does that to you. And if you don't do that and your project is delayed, your supervisor comes and kicks you on the rear end and says, why is your project not done? I don't have a crane because somebody else took the crane. In our world, and the inventory of all the things in the such large equipment in the construction sites somewhat looks like this. In our world of the software business, where we have zeros and ones, and all the data is in your pocket or your iPhone or wherever, and the dark sides of your HPC or your license servers, you do not know who is using what. So the whole attempt with software asset optimization tool is basically bringing those cranes into visible light, saying who is actually hoarding software licenses, who is actually consuming these licenses. So that's why I thought there was a good parallel between my construction experience in the past. Of course, I moved on to do other things in life later. But the whole idea behind looking at your software assets as inventory and having those inventories not being put to use is a big crime in my dictionary, in our dictionary as well. So the previous presentation, Sergey covered the batch side of things. Everything that goes through the HPC center is being monitored by the PBS analytics. Anything that is not is being monitored. Anything that pings on your license server is being monitored by software asset optimization. And I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people, a lot more wiser than I, who have said that software asset management can cut costs by 20%. If you have those cranes sitting in there, I mean, I'm drawing the analogy between cranes and software features and software, okay? So I'll keep interchanging so that keeps up in your mind all the time. So software asset can cut costs by 20%. That's what IDC says. Gartner says the IT optimization remains a top priority for CIOs in 2012 and beyond. And 65% of those surveyed had more audits in the last 12 months. So this is a big industry problem right now where people are buying more stuff than they require, and there are expensive stuff out there, right? So we want to look at, you know, how do we track the software? By users, by departments, by the regions, by the projects, if data is available, who's using what, and also do alerts and notification license denial. So imagine your license servers are serving different needs. There's interactive products. There are products that are running on HPC. And as Simon was asking, how do you know what's happening on the other end where Many of the vendors today license their products where the batch application draws some units or some tokens or however they have configured. There are features in the software product itself. Some of them are interactive. For example, our own products, a lot of our products are interactive products. A lot of our products are solver products which run on the HPC. And we have to aggregate both those information to give meaningful information of how the licenses are being consumed, whether it's interactive or whether it's running on the HPC center. So we want to basically report all these things in the software asset. And again, as we mentioned earlier, every company is looking at this. And one of the biggest challenges is their inventory. There's no inventory. There are people assigned to this job who all they do is trying to figure out how the licenses are being consumed. And the whole negotiation process for an ISV like us drags on for a month and 2 months sometimes, where people are even trying to figure out how much they're consuming so we can come to the table to negotiate contracts for the next following year, right? And also you have to justify to the management when the budget gets tight. You want to justify that a lot of people are getting the license denial, so we need more licenses. Or that your licenses that you purchase, you're using only at 80% capacity. And so you may not need as many licenses that you have. So the first part of the presentation where Sergey covered, you can do a lot of optimization, a lot of analysis on your data center. But on the software asset, we're talking about interactive applications as well as those applications that run, anything that runs on a license server, as I said. So the point here is basically we're trying to give you how to maximize your hardware side and as well as optimize your software side. That way you can optimize your spend on both sides of the fence, right? So and I think this again, Simon asked this question, how do we do this? So today what we do is we have these daemons running, we call them daemons, which are running on the license servers, which we call them actually agents. They pull all this information and pull it into a transactional store. And you can also apply certain metadata, certain business rules that can be fed into the transactional data store as well. And HighCube is our own business analytics platform. It's a very high-performance business analytics engine. It's multidimensional in nature. So you can not only, through HighCube, you can not only see real-time stuff of the consumption through the relational data store, but you can also do certain advanced analytics in terms of trying to slice and dice the data in a multidimensional way. Okay? And the baseline, what we have done is we've gone through this cycle a few times, and finally we come to a conclusion where we package out of the box a certain set of reports. And we today have agents that support FlexLM licenses, FlexNet, LUM, which is CATIA uses LUM, and LMX. And there are a lot of other products that we support, LS-DYNA and a few others as well. So we can collect this license information from all your servers, and we'll have a comprehensive dashboard. So we collected, as I said, a set of reports which we thought was useful for most of our audience within this domain. And obviously, we can do a lot of other customization as well. So we've captured that, and we package it under the SAO label. That's something that comes right out of the box that serves, we think it will serve at least 80 to 90% of our users. There's more reports in this than even I can understand some of those things, you know. And there's more reports than you can handle. So it'll take you at least a week to understand all the reports. So we've captured a lot of reports in here. So what's the demand, you know? What is, again, the benefits are very obvious. As I said, identifying the shelfware and eliminate the maintenance costs. Reallocating underutilized licenses, which is pretty obvious. Rapidly reconcile new requests against capacity. This always happens within every company. And again, how are we planning? Many times we do see that, like, for example, in the automotive or in the aerospace, there are cycles. There's a program goes through different phases, and anticipate that a bunch of simulations are going to be run in the next 3 months, in which case you can dynamically say, okay, this year I probably need more. Though it was 80% utilization last year, I still expect licenses to be consumed a lot more this year based on your demand and so on and so forth. So you can do this forecast and planning. And the beauty of this is all this data is readily available to you. So let me go to the next slide here. So this is the SAO portal. As you can see, it's a comprehensive dashboard where we have mapped a number of things. So I'll cover the main dashboard can give you alerts, can give you usage, and you can configure this however you want. And each of those charts that you see could be expanded as well, and you can individually see what those things are. And there is a report tree on the left-hand side, and depending on whether you're consumer of this report or an administrator, you have different rights in terms of being able to modify these reports and so on and so forth. And on the bottom side, this is the filters where you can slice and dice the data in terms of, you want to set a time limit and so on. I'll show that example to you. So this is the entire dashboard. And then you can also, we also have a GIS component in there where you can also physically see if you have those locations available. If you have multi-site and you want to look at every location, you can drill down from the GIS site and then go to a particular site and then say what is happening and drill down for that particular site as well. So here I'm going to rely on my remote control here because I can't click on it directly. So here let's take a scenario where, as I said, go back to the construction site, right, where you have resources being hoarded by folks. So you first of all want to identify who are the top 20 denials by vendor, And we're going through this whole path. And first of all, right off the bat, you'll see who are the top vendors, who are the top categories where you're getting denials. Then you can go back, click on the main screen, and then we can go back here. And I want to go through the same path. Can you go back? Yeah, click on the slide, please. Yeah, just click there, yeah. So we're going through this path. So first we identify what are the top 20 denials. Then we look at denials by vendor features. What features of the vendors are the main culprits? So then we click on this, and you identify, okay, this particular feature is the one in most denial. So you can click back, and then now go through the path again. And then now you can go and see who are the users who are actually using this particular feature. And then you can click on it and then say, this guy, the guy on the top is the guy who's using this feature the most. So now you're on a FBI kind of a sleuth kind of a role, and you're trying to figure out, hey, who is this guy and what is his pattern? Let me find out if this guy is a hoarder, right? So you go back and then you click on, let's look at year-to-date session length for this particular user, right? So you can click on it and then say, this guy, how much of it is being consumed by this guy? So you see that this guy is a potential hoarder. He's been using, we've masked the names for obvious reasons, right? So this guy has been using that particular feature, and so he has a pattern of hoarding licenses. So you could probably go back and identify who's the guy who's actually using your crane the most in your construction site, right? So this is one path, and there are a lot of different reports, but I don't want to bore you to death with all the reports, but you get a general idea. So at this point, I'll go to the next thing. Now we've gone through the path of identifying through one particular path. You can create your own set of paths. But in this particular path, I want to understand what vendors, give me a usage breakdown by vendors, right? What vendor tools am I using across my corporation? So if I click on it, you could see, there are two scales I want to tell you here. There are two different scales. So obviously, we track the peak usage. We also do a saturation point. The saturation point is based on how many, the amount of tokens you have available versus how much you're actually using and so on and so forth. And obviously, for obvious reason, we tweak this just to showcase to you and highlight one particular case where this particular usage is pretty high in terms of token consumption. So if I click on that box, the usage breakdown box, you can go and see for that particular vendor. As I said, every vendor has different features in their product. So now you can see which particular product for that particular vendor is consuming the most. Obviously, in this case, we deliberately made hypermesh here. I mean, it's Altair data. So you could see the most consumed in this particular site was hypermesh 3D. I don't know if you can read that very clearly. And so that kind of gives you an idea of looking at vendors in a very holistic picture and then drilling down and seeing which particular feature is being used the most. And then this comes to the other advanced analytical charts as well, where you can also do certain advanced analytics in terms of comparing the usage between months as well. If you click on a chart. So for example, here, again, we have messed up with the data just to show you certain things. In this case, you're comparing the month of July versus June. Obviously, that bar is not there because we deliberately made it 0. So between July and June, there's a big delta drop. And then you could see, based on different dimensions, you can look at across multiple dimensions. In this case, the 2 dimensions that you're looking at is, one is based on the geography itself, and the other dimension is based on the department itself. So across this department, you could see that EMEA went down by about 40%, and then you could also see which group actually went down the most in this particular case. And again, through these filters, you can also see, which you can choose the time period as well. The graph is not the resolution is not that great, so you can't see this very clearly, but you can select the start date and the end date here. And you can also choose right here the vendor, which vendor you're picking up as well. So which particular vendor you're picking, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of filters as well. So this is in essence the software asset, what all you can do. But again, there's a lot of different things. You could see, if you look at the tree on the left-hand side, there are tons and tons of reports. And as I said, it'll take you a week to understand many of those. So we feel that these reports out of the box cover probably 80 to 90% of your requirements for interactive and anything that pings the license server, as I said. So we have testimonials. We've implemented this to one of the largest automotive makers, probably, and they're the number one a two-wheeler manufacturer in the world, Bajaj Auto, and also Delphi, who were extremely happy. And Delphi thing was like they had over 30 or 40 servers across the world, and their data was like really humongous. And we did the whole project for them, and they were one of our first customers. And that's when we actually captured probably about 80 to 90% of the entire requirements through that engagement. And as you can see, like Bajaj, I don't want to read it out. You can read it yourself. But the bottom line, it improves their bottom line. Okay? And from start to finish, again, as I said, we went on this path where we first said software asset optimization, this is a product, and we would engage with the customer, try to identify what their needs are, and go through this whole 9 yards, and then it takes 6 months for you to even understand what the customer actually wants and come to some path. And so we kind of completely moved away from that direction, and we said, okay, we'll give you as many reports as you want. We could about 80 to, as I said, 80, 90% coverage in terms of all possible use cases, and you take this. And then the whole thing comes in a box, and all we say is, we'll give you this stuff, you administer this, you can install this agents, and within about 3 to 5 business days, you can have the whole thing running. You can just identify license servers, install the data collection engine, deploy the database on the engine, and we expect that if we work with the system guys within the company, and many times we have noticed that there are a lot of times the blockage is, trying to identify the right people not available when you go on site, and so on and so forth. So right now, we give the entire packet to you. You guys install everything, and then once it's installed, it works off the box. 3 to 5 days, you can start to go live within 3 to 5 days. So we've kind of learned within our own, hard ways about how to optimize even the implementation of a baseline solution. And again, if you want to go beyond what is available in SAO, you can always work with us, and we will be more than happy to accommodate any requests and work with you on that. Having said that, I just want to recap the benefits, and which is pretty obvious. And again, as long as you think about the construction site and the cranes, and every time you drive across and you see the cranes being used, in my mind, the cranes not being used, my mind is there. This is where your tax dollars are not being used, okay, or being abused. So keep that in mind, and that same analogy applies to software as well. It's a crime to have software in your organization that's not being used, okay? Keep that in mind. With that, I'm 10 minutes ahead of you, in terms of, relieving you of the misery of listening to me. So any questions? And one thing I also want to point out is SAO license, just like every other product, works off tokens of Altair's HyperWorks tokens. So, part of the solution. Yes, Tony?
So is this...
Make sure it's an easy question.
Is this considered a standalone product, or is it tightly integrated with the other... Is it a standalone software product, or is it tightly integrated with Compute Manager and the analytics? And
it is a standalone product. Yes, it is a standalone product. But again, all the pieces are all Altair products. So.
Other questions?
Okay, I have 9 more minutes. Come on, entertain me with some questions. All right, good. All right, great, guys. Thank you.